one that really moved me the most was Taxi Driver, I think. Yeah. I remember watching it at 15 years old and being transfixed with Travis Bickle because I was locked into this character, and I felt such incredible empathy towards. I understood him. I understood his loneliness, and then he deceived me. Yeah. You know, and at the point he deceived me, I said, who is this guy that I'm watching?
All right, on the line we have Dustin again, one of the movie experts, one of the only movie experts that I know in person. Dustin, today we're going to talk about a film that Premiere Magazine voted number 25 as one of the most dangerous movies ever. A film ranked by the American Film Institute as the 52nd greatest movie of all time, and one that Empire Magazine describes as a vivid fever dream we still haven't woken up from. Do you know what this film is?
I do. It is Taxi Driver, directed by Martin Scorsese from 1932. One of my favorites.
Listen, you fuckers, you screwheads. Here is a man who would not take it anymore. A man who stood up against the scum, the cunts, the dogs, the filth, the shit. Here is someone who stood up. Here is... You're dead.
That's right. Now, Dustin, to start things off, we're going to be playing a little game show. I'm going to be asking you questions about the movie. If you get them right, you're going to hear. And if you get them wrong, you will hear.
Okay.
Please don't answer until the countdown has begun. The countdown sounds like this. There will be 5 questions. 2 are multiple choice and the rest are not. Let me know when you're ready to play.
I am ready.
All right, Dustin. Question 1 is multiple choice. What is the first line spoken in the film? Is it, got your license? I can't sleep nights. So why do you want to be a taxi driver? Or no trouble with the hack bureau?
So why do you want to be a cab driver?
No trouble with the hack bureau. Question 2. What is the only soda available in the porno theater? This is not multiple choice.
Coca-Cola. It's a Coke. I see him do hand. It.
RC Cola. Well, yeah, it's close enough. It's close enough. You know what? I'll go ahead and give you a.
Yeah.
Because you did say cola. You said Coke. It was RC Cola.
Yes.
Okay. Question 3. What is the name of the other taxi driver who gives Travis help from time to time? He's played by Peter Boyle. Also had a role in Everybody Loves Raymond.
Rizzle.
Good job, buddy. You got it. Okay, question 4. What branch of the armed forces did Travis serve in, and what year was he discharged?
Well, it's definitely Marines, and the real is 1971.
Oh, you were so close. It was 1973. He actually says that line to the same guy from the first question. Okay, question 5, Dustin. But that's not bad, man. You doing very well. These are hard. Question 5. This is multiple choice. This movie was nominated for 4 Oscars, but it was shut out. Which of these categories was it not nominated for? Okay, was it not nominated for? Best Supporting Actress, Jodie Foster. Best Film, Best Actor, Robert De Niro, or Best Supporting Actor, Peter Boyle?
Peter Boyle. Peter Boyle not nominated for supporting.
You got it. That was actually a hard one. I didn't know if you would get it. Yeah, you got. Yeah, so it was not nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Just kind of interesting side note. Both Foster and De Niro, obviously, they got Oscars, or they were nominated because Foster for Silence of the Lambs and The Accused, and De Niro for Godfather Part 2 and Raging Bull.
and yeah, they all definitely deserve. But yeah, I don't know if you heard me, but I actually thought you were gonna say like was not nominated Martin Scorsese for director because he was not nominated either, and people found that to be kind of like a snub, and like Scorsese actually was pretty hooked by that. He was like, well, how can like the film that I direct be nominated for Best Picture, and it got like 3 L nominations for what I'm pussy am not nominated for it too.
What did you think of this movie as a whole?
It is definitely a experience. This is a film that I was just struck by how real and unnerving it is, and how it was released in the 1970s, and it just really like pushes like a lot of buttons, and like Scorsese and De Niro, they have stated before that they basically just made that film for themselves. They were shocked by it getting just like recognition, but like I guess the reason why it did was because of it's just people can find it to be kind of relatable, whether they will want to admit it or not.
Well, because it's basically the script to me is about loneliness and isolation. That is what, when I watch that, that's what I get out of it. And everybody can feel that. Everybody can feel those things. But I like how you brought up how they basically made it for themselves, because the movie was modeled after two things. One of the writers who fell on hard times and he was living out of his car. And then the other, of course, being the shooter of George Wallace. Okay, so it took 10 days to draft. And this writer kept a loaded gun on his desk for motivation and inspiration. Obviously, it was filmed in New York, and that was basically the blood and cum stain of the era. But yeah, I really like it too. I mean, this movie was dark, and it was dark from its inception. Did you hear that the first draft was going to get an X rating? Yeah. Like I said, it came out really good. De Niro signed a $35,000 contract to appear in the film, but of course he got his Oscar for The Godfather Part 2, which made his profile soar. He could have gotten more money. He could have asked for more money, and the studio was afraid he was gonna, but he didn't. He went through with his contract. So I have a lot of respect for De Niro. I think he did a great job. Absolute great job. I mean, he put so much work into it. Like you and I had talked about, he worked 15-hour days for a whole month driving cabs just so he could get this role down. And he studied mental illness and visited military bases to get their behavior and their speech.
That is what we call die-hard dedication. Robert De Niro was actually well known for being one of the first like big actors that was like a method actor, and basically like method acting is when people they just like prepare a lot, and it kind of becomes though it's not really acting anymore, and they kind of become that character. And there was like a couple people around the same time span who was also known for that, but De Niro's, for example, was probably like the most extreme. Just like in Reagan Bull, he like gained and like lost 80 pounds to play a boss role, and he is remembered as one of the best actors ever, and that is definitely understandable.
You know who I think of when you say method actor? I think that Joaquin Phoenix guy who did the Joker. Because to me, like he was the character. I think El Pacino is another one.
Yeah, both of them. But it's interesting that you mentioned about like Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, because for that one is like similar too. And in fact, like one sign of a great movie is if it like inspires or like influence other films. And like among the like multiple films that it has inspired, like Girlfriend is one of them, like about the whole just like someone who is like just mentally ill or just a loner and the slow descent into violence. And even though it is definitely its own film, they're all visual images. They're all images in it that can make you maybe shift about that. Like when Joaquin has a gun to his head, just like De Niro has in Taxi Driver.
Exactly. That's actually a scene that I want to talk about later on. No, you bring up a great point. And that's one thing that this film has, is it puts you in the city, with its cinematography with everything. It makes you feel like you're in the cab, like you were in there with him. That's what makes it so powerful. Do you remember when De Niro's character was going to the porno theater at the beginning of the film?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the concession girl?
Yes.
That actually was his on and off girlfriend for the time, for the 70s, which I thought was interesting.
I did not know that.
Let's talk about the cinematography. They had the legendary cinematographer Michael Chapman working on this. He also did The Raging Bull. He did Invasion of the Body Snatchers. What do you think of Chapman's work?
Most of the film is like shot at night, and they just capture the whole life and people walking, and just like the small editing with the lights, like it just like grips of atmosphere. Exactly.
You bring up how they're shooting it and how they're in the city. One thing I would like to point out that puts us puts us there with them is the way it was shot, because it was eye level shots, and they were, it was able to highlight character concerns, like with De Niro, with Travis. It was really a work of magic. Just doing it all at eye level. Most of the shooting was at eye level. My favorite shot was later on in the film when Travis was buying guns from the sales guy in the hotel or motel room, whatever it was. The camera was so slow and calculated, and I really like how when he pointed the gun at the camera, it was like he was pointing at the audience. Like I said, the cinematography was legendary in this.
And I'm like glad that you mentioned that, because of like touch upon the whole like just the whole editing and like the visual like look of it, but also like the movement, and how there are like some scenes in the film where there's like subtle camera movement, but there's so much like importance placed on it. Like for example, the scene after the whole date with Betsy goes south, and Sarah Bickle like tries to call Betsy on the phone, but it
pans to the hallway and it goes down the hallway. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And they have said that was supposed to like signify like that it was too painful, like too
painful
like,
to even watch,
too embarrassing on his part.
Yeah, I think they also mentioned that was that's what the director said was the most important shot in the movie. And if you think about it, it just highlights Travis's isolation. That people are walking away, people are turning away from him. He feels alone.
Exactly. Robert Ebert, he has one of my he just really like describes the film like perfectly in his great movies essay. He like say how we all have felt as alone as Travis. It's just most of us is better at dealing with it.
Each night when I return the cab to the garage, I have to clean the cum off the back seat. Some nights I clean off the blood.
But what do you think of the locations used? Did it help sell the grit for you? And the isolation?
It definitely did. How and actually, it's a New York film, and it's interesting to just like watch a lot of like New York movies because of those different like flavors of it. How like New York is this really, it has like landmarks and
Oh yeah, we're gonna
just
talk
like a
about some
lot of
landmarks.
people and like stuff like that. So you have movies that will like be depicted in like a energetic way, but then you also have movies like The French Connection or like Taxi Driver now. Well, it it has like a lot of people, but more people equals more crime, and it just really captures the whole like underbelly of it well with the pimps and just the crime with the criminal who tries to rob the store at night. It just like it just captures that excellently.
Absolutely. They picked such good locations, and we'll talk about that, about the city a little bit. The cabbies, where they gathered to eat, that was a real place. It was called the Belmore Cafeteria. That was a real place that real cabbies used to hang out at in the 70s. That's now been demolished, and there's an apartment building now named the Belmore. They also use the Manhattan Street, which you talked about. There's a lot of people. But more interestingly, they have a scene with the Hotel Olcott. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And that hotel has quite a dirty history. In the 1950s, there was this vice president of a drug company. He told his wife he was going for a walk, and he jumped off the roof. And then, of course, in the 80s, that hotel Hotel Olcott was where Mark Chapman stayed before he assassinated John Lennon. So this city, the city in itself is just, it's dark. It's very dark.
Exactly. And like since we were speaking about the whole capture in the city, how from the get-go, like the very opening credit scene, like I just when it like shows the cab driving and slow mo, and it just have like shots of everybody like walking at night, and you just have close ups of characters like looking at them, and you from like the beginning you can just tell that this is a city movie, and seeing like the city and like society's effect on like a observer or a person who is just a part of it.
Travis and Betsy, they go on that date, and he takes her to get coffee and pie. And I don't know if you realize the kind of pie he ordered. It was a pie with cheese on it. Or Ed Gein, that's the same thing he asked for when he was arrested in exchange for a full confession. He asked for a pie with a piece of cheese. He was known as the Butcher of Plainfield in the Plainfield Ghoul, a body snatcher who later died in the 1980s.
Nice.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot going on with the locations here. It's pretty crazy. The actress that was playing Betsy, Miss Shepherd,
Shepherd.
Yep, yeah. She had a hard time remembering her lines for that scene, and it had the editors laughing because there was so much unusable footage to work with. Do you have any favorite scenes?
I definitely have through how there's no scene I like dislike, but just a couple of my favorites right off the top is like for one, like of course the whole the most classic famous scene in the movie is like you talking to me, and actually that scene was improvised. How in the screenplay supposedly it just like said like Travis like looked in the meal, but like the whole monologue of oh well I'm the only one here, that was improvised and like but that's one of my favorite things how like how White after he like says that he has that whole Leslie Fuffles who has part that he played at the beginning how it just like shows him just like being fed up and wanting to like do something about it, even though like someone has said how if you like rewatch it, it can kind of sound a little bit strange because he says he was a man who stood up, but they have a shot of him like in bed.
Like, people, he like lays down. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's one of my favorite things. Jeffy.
Talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, then who the hell else are you talking to? Talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here.
I'm the only one here. I love it.
Who do you think you're talking to?
So that quote was actually voted in the top 10 best quotes for both the American Film Institute and Premiere Magazine. But do you know what Robert said inspired him for that quote that you were talking about? Bruce Springsteen, his banter with the audience in a 1970s gig. I'm really happy that you brought that up. The whole quote.
Damn. Oh shit.
Yeah. So that was also inspired by something. Like I said, almost every element of this film is inspired by something. But sorry, so what other scenes do you like?
Well, like no one that just like comes to. Well, okay. Since the top of the scene, I would just want to mention how like kind of early in the film, probably around like half hour in, White Afro like Betsy, like loses interest in him. There was this one scene when Travis is like driving around Cosmo, and it like shows
which is the director
one guy. Yes, Martin Scorsese.
Yep. It was a cameo. Yep.
Yeah.
So, do you know why the director appeared in that scene?
Because of the original actor, he correct me if I'm wrong, but it was some like health and like I heard supposedly that was because he had diarrhea.
So the real reason was he was injured with a movie he was working on called The Farmer. I wouldn't be surprised if you've never heard of it because it was never released on DVD and is considered lost. But he actually later on died from the injuries that were from The Farmer. It was a car scene. Yeah, he got hurt from that car scene. Have you ever heard of The Farmer, the movie?
No, but I'm trying to look up right now. That is interesting.
Yeah, it's considered lost. It's a lost film. Did you have any more favorite scenes? What about Jodie Foster? I think she did really well for a 12-year-old. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I also you mentioned Jodie Foster, but also no scene I like is when Travis is just in a dino with Betsy, and he's just trying to talk her out of the whole like prostitute life. Some douchebags for money.
Yeah, Jodie was only 12 years old, and her sister Connie Foster actually was cast as a body double for a lot of the more explicit scenes. But I thought it was interesting because Jodie Foster couldn't even attend the premiere without adult because of the rating, because she was only 12 years old.
I know. I find that to be a little bit amusing. Jodie Foster, she like said how of course it is like violent, but she is just really grateful for that role. How it it just really like helped her career, and like she like met these like great people, and even though she isn't in the film much, she does make the most of what like small role she has.
Absolutely. Towards the end of the movie, De Niro's mohawk, it was actually not real because he was shooting scenes for another movie. That was a bald cap that was glued to his head. And then that hairpiece is actually currently sitting in the Museum of Moving Images in New York.
And just when you like see him with the mohawk, like having a mohawk, that still is a pretty unusual like haircut. So when you see him like get that, you should already tell that shut-in is maybe gonna happen. But like about the whole ending, like what can I say? It's just really well made. The entire film is built into that, and how. Yeah. Do you have like what are your thoughts on the whole climax?
It escalated quickly. Let's put it that way.
I'll take it. But yeah, but.
So let's wrap things up. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to get out?
Just a couple. Like first of all, like I mentioned about the method acting of like De Niro. I just also want to pull out how like this was Scorsese and De Niro's second of 8 collaborations that they did. The L7 and chronological order was Mean Streets, New York, Raging Bull, The King of Comedy, Goodfellas, Cape Fear, Casino, and The Irishman. And yeah, all of those films are really good, but just that Taxi Driver is like probably my favorite. And the music was done by Bernard Herrmann, and like it is easily one of my favorite themes, music of films ever. How I just love how all over the place that show is in the best possible way. When it has the whole like scenes during the daytime, it has like this saxophone music that's very like romantic that you would maybe hear in like a porno, but then like when the movie is set at night, it's just very moody, and I cannot imagine like any other music that would have like made that film that effective.
Yeah, you're right, because the music was spot on because there were so many different scenes, because there was the pie scene, there was the nighttime scenes, and there was the climactic scene. They all boil up to the very ominous swells. They have jazzy, and then they're kind of like a melancholy tune. And at times it could be anonymous. They just sound like a very anonymous tone, but yeah, it really swells up, especially when he adds like the saxophone in. He did such a great job with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's when Travis sinks into despair after the Betsy thing. That's when they kind of add in the saxophone melody. It starts to appear. Mm-hmm. Well, they don't add it in there, but it appears less and less. You really notice the difference in that.
Yeah. A couple more things would want to mention is that we like mentioned about like the climax with the whole like shooting and all of that, but the very very last scene in the movie is when he like drives like Betsy around, and she's just asking like, how are you? Some people some people wonder about, that scene is just a little bit unrealistic. Like, why would she behave that way when he was like a little bit aggressive towards her earlier, and how he doesn't have like a gunshot wound to his neck, and like some people wonder if maybe that was just like a hallucination or like a dream on like Travis's part, but like
Yeah, but then
how
there was an interview with the director that said that actually that he didn't mean it to be as like a dream at the end or anything like that. He meant it to be like real time.
Like someone say how they do find it to be interesting how like once when he gets out of the cab and he begins to drive away, there was like this shot of him like looking at Justin in his meal, and then it just like ends, and some people just like feel like maybe that was just be like suggesting that like Justin maybe is gonna like set him off again in the future.
All right, man. Do you have do you want to tell the listeners about your show, like what you do on YouTube and where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my YouTube channel, Dustin's Movie Reviews, and just to answer your question that you're about to ask, I have not reviewed Taxi Driver Red, but I will sometime.
What's the next movie you plan on reviewing?
Oh, I have no idea. Maybe Apocalypse Now, since that is the last movie we talked about, but I know I'll just keep people like that would be a surprise.
All right, Dustin. Well, we appreciate having you on the show, and we look forward to more. Hopefully you had fun.
I did, so yeah.